Yeah, just me doing me, right?
Right as sharp. That's insane. Belly push. What a touch.
Another compliment. There she is. Hello, friends. Welcome to Hot Mics. Here we go. It is a Wednesday, hump day. Please hit subscribe. Listening to Harry's song right there, my producer Harry, just tickling a little bit on the guitar. Because we're going to launch right in here with Hayden Panettiere and the latest on that. Mother spoke out. Wladimir Klitschko said a lot of really beautiful things. But good morning to everybody. Thanks for being with us. Love you. Here's Pam. Keep watching the clip on the beautiful, fragile flower. Hayden was a sweet person. Pam, you are right about that. God bless everybody who loved her. That is true. Police are currently at the home of the brothers who were there when Hayden passed away. Richard Master, English Dick, check out Billy's last show if you missed it. Brilliant interview. Thank you, English Dick. We love you for that very much. We interviewed Matt Murphy, longtime Orange County prosecutor. That has to do with the Clancy trial, though, so we'll get to that in a second. But, yeah, we're going to start with Hayden Panettiere. Mom Leslie Vogel reacted. She called into NBC News. She says that Hayden had chosen a different path in life. Said it was difficult in Hollywood growing up in that scene. Of course, Leslie, ironically, was the manager forever and helped her grow up in that scene. But she, as I expected, pivoted to Brian Hickerson, who is Hayden's on-again, off-again boyfriend for years, a very toxic, tumultuous relationship, a deeply troubled individual. She said, Leslie Vogel, Hayden's mom, said she was not surprised that Brian Hickerson was there in the end when she died. He was there. He and his brother Zach called 911. NBC reports that Zach was emotional while the EMTs tried to save Hayden's life. Brian was not visibly emotional until she was pronounced dead. They were in an Airbnb in Greenville, South Carolina. TMZ broke the story that Hayden had a full bag of medication on her when she died. Her boyfriend, Brian Hickerson, shared that with police. The specific medications were not identified in the police report, but it sounds like there were 9 different drugs and they were all redacted. So there's the report, not sharing that yet, probably until the autopsy is done. But Narcan was found in the apartment. I mean, who travels with Narcan? You got a real problem if you're doing that. But Narcan obviously reverses opioid overdoses. So they were, at least there was some preparedness. We're going to do some opioids tonight. Yippee. Might as well have some Narcan with us in case we get close to death. Epinephrine was also used on the scene, which would line up with the initial 911 call describing cardiac arrest. Epinephrine helps to address cardiac arrest. TMZ reports that paramedics tried to resuscitate Hayden using advanced cardiac life support. Our sources say that this treatment uses special medicines, breathing tubes, heart rhythm tracking, chest compressions, of course. But EMS was called at 1:51 p.m. and she was pronounced dead at 2:32. So it was relatively quick. She obviously shares her daughter Kaya with Wladimir Klitschko, who's a hero in all of this, right? She was married to Wladimir. They had a daughter together, but that demon inside of her drew her to Brian Hickerson and away from Wladimir Klitschko. He put up a really thoughtful, beautiful statement about her passing. He said, "The announcement of Hayden's tragic death saddens me deeply. She left this world far too soon. Hayden was, although no longer my partner, an important part of my life and the mother of our daughter, Kaya. She built an incredible career through immense talent, while also facing the darker sides of a very demanding industry. I extend my deepest condolences to Hayden's parents, her friends. I ask everyone to please respect our family's feelings and privacy. Thanks to everyone who's supporting my family and expressing their sincere condolences. Rest easy, Hayden. May you find eternal peace. And it is very clear that she could not find peace in her life. It's just so tragic. I knew her, like I said, and she was just a really great girl. She was sweet. And her addiction to Brian Hickerson is where we need to turn our attention, because it was just, it was not good, not healthy. And there is no surprise. As soon as I heard that Hayden Panettiere died, I immediately knew that Brian Hickerson was present. She talks about her relationship with him in her book, which she released in May of 2026. And she details the domestic violence incidents, multiple, that occurred between the two. Because as she said in the book, he was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. When the alcohol got into his system, he literally became a monster. And yet he never, got clean. And he loved pulling her in with him.
A little behind the scenes on Sunday night, you and I were talking about Monday's show.
Yeah.
And in the middle of that conversation, I got the alert that she had passed away. And the first words out of your mouth were Brian Hickerson.
Brian Hickerson.
Brian Hickerson.
No question.
That
He
is.
was there. No question. The irony of the death of Hayden Panettiere is that she is most famous for playing an indestructible cheerleader on Heroes. And she was pushed to the brink over and over again, and ultimately succumbs at 36. Just an interesting point. But Brian is all over the book for his domestic violence and his beatings of Hayden Panettiere. I remember he copped to it right when the book came out. He was on TMZ Live and he was slurring his words. He was talking, just drunk as a skunk in the middle of the day. He told the interviewer, I wish I'd been taught what domestic violence was when I was younger. Do you need to be taught that you don't grab a woman by the throat and push her up against the wall, smash her head into the wall, and then with an open hand slap her so hard her face goes to 150 degrees and is ringing for the next 2 days? Do you need to be taught that that is something you don't do? Brian was booked on felony domestic assault years ago. It was a terrible row inside her condominium. He tried to say when the police got there that she had punched herself repeatedly, and she, beyond sad. He pled no contest, and then he told Hayden, I don't remember, and I'm so sorry. And this is when he became sweet again, right? This is a pattern that all domestic violence victims know. They know this over and over again. 4 months later, the DA, I think it was Gascon at the time, George Gascon, the worst DA in the history of Los Angeles, dropped the charges. He loved to drop charges on criminals. How do you say soft on crime? Despite all he'd done to me, Hayden writes, I still love the person I thought he was. Someone says, I can hardly hear you, Billy. Why would that be? My microphone is, it is, something's wrong with it.
You potted the mic down. You got the mic pot.
No, that's not the case, Harry.
All right.
Hello. Oh, it is really weak though. Let's see if we can bring it up. Hello. Is that any better? Harry, you don't hear that?
I hear it fine. It's not on my end. I see nothing. How do we sound?
But I see that the microphone. Let's try and all right. Let's see what we can do here.
Yeah.
Well, speak up and tell me if that's a little bit better. Is that a little bit better?
Yes, better. Rose.
Yes, better. Thank you. Okay.
I'm out.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde when he was drinking. He can flip into a rage instantly, she wrote. He was arrested in Los Angeles on that incident because he'd beaten the shit out of her multiple times. He's 6 feet tall. He's a big, I always wish, why didn't Wladimir Klitschko, he knew what was going on. He must have known. He saw the fights between that awful TMZ fight that spilled out into the street from a bar at the Sunset Marquis Hotel. I wish Wladimir Klitschko flew to, fuck, he would destroy Hickerson. But of course, Brian called and begged her not to press charges. She did anyway. This was one major time she stood up for herself. Bail was set at $320,000 on the guy. Also in that TMZ Live interview in May, when the book came out, he said, Hayden Panettiere is the sweetest thing in the world. She's a Sunday girl, meaning Saturday nights are for, but you're the one you love. Is there Sunday? Hayden's one of the most talented people I've ever met. I would be an idiot not to walk away from her and let her flourish in her career. We wouldn't be good together. And yet you didn't let her walk away and flourish in her career because you needed her, right? Maybe she was what made him feel better about himself. And whatever disdain he had for her for actually staying with someone as diminished as him made him violent towards her. I don't know. Here I go, armchair psychiatrist. But it's the definition of toxic, this relationship between the two. Klitschko's statement was great. The mother, again, Leslie Vogel, they had a terrible falling out. She ultimately put it on Hickerson, which is fair, because he's no doubt a deeply compromised person. Okay. Do we have a little sound from Hayden? Do we have the audio of Hayden Panettiere, my friend?
Yeah, we do. Hang on, here it comes.
This is her reading from her book. Listen to this. This is her talking about the domestic violence incident, what happened with Brian Hickerson. The only reason to share it now is because this guy needs to be held to account. All right, hit it.
One night, he busts up my face so badly, I don't leave the house for weeks. Another day, he screams at me to run his phone in 5 seconds because I'll need a head start before he throws a remote control at me. The remote control hits my face. He stands in the doorway of our living room, reaching at me to give him my phone. He's afraid I'm calling Vlad and that I'll tell Vlad about the abuse. I run up the stairs and he follows me. You're not getting away. Give me the phone. I turn, slip, and fall on the steps. I look up and there's Brian. Punches rain down hard. My head hits the wall and he's straddling me, pinning me down using all his weight. Why did you hit yourself? He screams as I struggle under him. You're all bruised. Why did you do that to yourself? I break free and run to the living room toward the front door. I grab my keys and phone and consider calling 911. I can't. Then the public would know, and the public can't know. I slam the door behind me and run to my car. I hear sirens down the street, and I know my neighbors called 911. But this is out of my hands. The cops will question Brian, then me, and I'll have to say the truth. I hope Brian knows it wasn't me who called the cops. It was our neighbor. Brian's booked on charges of felony domestic assault.
Wow. That is really hard to listen to. And what's harder to understand is that she could not leave him no matter what. Even when she went to rehab for 8 months, she went away for 8 months, got herself totally clean. That's how long it took, and continued on with him after that. It's devastatingly sad. Okay. How is my audio now? Are we okay? Do we have audio? It looks like I have it on my screen. Let's see what the people say. Do I have audio? I'm speaking with a basso profundo right now. A big and powerful bass in the voice. Is it good? Thumbs up, says Kevin's Queen 76. Thank you, my friend. All right. We love you, Hayden. And we will see what happens to Brian Hickerson from here. I hope to God at least he goes, and if this doesn't send the guy to rehab, I don't know what will. Okay, Clancy. The Lindsay Clancy trial. Sue Clancy, Lindsay's mother-in-law, on the stand yesterday. She said Lindsay loved her children very, very much. She felt unwell. She was losing her appetite. She was begging for help. This is her mother-in-law. And remember, this is a grandmother that lost 3 kids. So she has every right to side with the prosecution and hate Lindsay Clancy. But the prosecution is absolutely bombing. Bombing it is. You can smell the stench. They are bombing so bad. The cross-exam of Sue Clancy was as subtle as a sledgehammer, like a bull in a china shop, these 2 assistant DAs. Jennifer Sprague, who was at the microphone at the time, asked if Susan is a member of the Catholic Church. And she says, yes, I am. And then Sprague says, and you're aware that murder is considered a mortal sin? Here she is shaming her for being a bad Catholic. Okay, the judge goes, sidebar, and pulls Jennifer Sprague over. This is a government employee violating the First Amendment by asking a private citizen on the stand about her religious beliefs and shaming. There were courtroom gasps. Like everybody in there was like, oh, what did she just do? I think it was a death sentence for them with the jury. Beyond that abomination, the prosecution is trying to sell the idea that Lindsay Clancy did not tell doctors about the auditory hallucinations she later admitted to. She didn't tell them before the deaths because she wanted to keep her kids so she could kill them in a premeditated fashion. Now, the prosecution has to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt. This is a mountain to climb. In truth, admitting that you're hearing voices is like laying your shame out for the world to judge. There is a pressure all women know on them, on how to handle it all. Every woman has pressure to be the perfect mom. Some comes from other women, right? In carpool, like, oh my God, she can't even handle her kids. Look at her. Oh my God, Jesus, she wears the sweatpants. She doesn't even wash her hair. My God. Everybody's judging, not just from other moms, of course, but just society in general. There's a competition. There's a judginess. And she could lose her nursing license. So is Lindsay Clancy going to come forward and be like, hey, yo, I'm hearing voices? No, the shame is too deep. On redirect, the amazing attorney, Kevin Reddington, asked Sue Clancy about options that were presented to Lindsay. And she said one was the Women and Infants Hospital in Rhode Island. They took her there. This is one of 3 hospitals she went to. She said Lindsay was turned away because she was over-medicated and called suicide hotlines twice. So they were like, yeah, we can't help you. Jesus, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Dr. Donald Conde took the stand, child and adolescent and adult psychiatrist. He testified and confirmed this, that she was discharged from Women and Infants Hospital in Rhode Island after seeking treatment. The records stated hospital staff believe she was experiencing complications from medication, not necessarily postpartum depression, making her a bad candidate for the program. Oh my God. And then Dr. Conde reviewed the records of this very young psychiatrist who was 32 years old and had only been on the job 1 month at the time she started seeing Lindsay Clancy, Jennifer Tufts. He reviewed her records and said they are somewhat sparse. There are many check boxes in the records, but not a great deal of sentences that describe what was done during the sessions. And this is exactly what Reddington did the other day when the prosecution was in charge. Reddington cross-examined Jennifer Tufts and was like, excuse me, you have drop-down menus like, how are you feeling today? Good, bad, in between, check. Like, this is what a psychiatrist does? No. I went to a psychiatrist and he recorded every session so he could listen back and take copious notes and build a very deep file on me. Not a drop-down menu that says good, bad, or ugly. I mean, really bad. Really, really bad. And I think this goes beyond Jennifer Tufts. The Astor Mental Health, which is the company for whom Jennifer Tufts worked, they are named in the civil suit, which is coming. The civil suit that Lindsay's lawyer, by the way, Rosemary Scapicchio, she's got a reputation in the Boston area as an absolute badlander. Like, she is tough, she is feared, and she will be going after all these people. But Dr. Condi on the stand recalls that Jennifer Tufts prescribed Zoloft to Lindsay, starting at 25 milligrams and then going up to 50, doubling it. And that's when the sleeplessness hit like a hammer. And Lindsay got insomnia for 48 hours straight, couldn't sleep. He said that's called activation. And I think most of us know, it's a pretty good indication that you shouldn't be on this medication. You've got something else, like an underlying major mood disorder, like a bipolar, if you have that type of reaction to an SSRI like Zoloft. At another point, they bring up Dr. Paul Zeisel, a clinical forensic psychologist. He's actually on the stand right now as we speak in day 16. He reported that Lindsay told him that this is big. He reported Lindsay told him that she had heard a male voice ordering her, telling her that she didn't have any choice. She had to kill her children and then kill herself. He said Clancy only had auditory hallucinations, which can be experienced like waves at the beach. They come and they go. Lindsay felt that people could actually hear her thoughts, he said, that her thoughts were so loud that strangers could hear them. Now, remember, she's saying this after she had killed the kids. But she thought that teachers at school could hear her thoughts. This goes back to the shame. This is a woman in postpartum psychosis. You can't expect her to be like, gig's up. You know what? Now I should probably, go and share the fact that I'm hearing voices. This is the shame. There's not sympathy and love and outreach for someone who says, I'm hearing voices. There's, oh my God, they're crazy. That's what there is. There's gossip. There's judgment. So English Dick earlier put up a nice comment on the screen. He said, to check out the interview I posted yesterday with Matt Murphy. I hope you do. If you're following the Clancy trial, Matt Murphy's outstanding. I was well prepared. We had a good, really good conversation about it. Matt was in the Orange County prosecutor's office, in the DA's office, as a prosecutor for 20 years, 3 in child crime, and then he spent 17 years in the homicide unit. The man has prosecuted a lot of bad people. He's watching this. He's grading the prosecution and the defense. He's got a really good take. Let's go with Satu, Harry. He makes a prediction here of what happens.
There's cases that I have really strong opinions about. This is one where I really don't. It's a horrible case, but I can tell you right now, I can call this shot. The jury's going to come back and find her legally insane. If I had to guess, that's what's going to happen.
Bang. That's the call right there. Then Matt and I talked about, we talked about the performance. Prosecution versus defense. Harry, let's take a look at SOT 3 here from Matt Murphy.
Massachusetts, the final prong is called the control prong, and that is they're suffering from a mental disease or defect. And from that, even if they know it's wrong, if they're unable to control their actions, then they are legally insane. Okay. So, and that's the problem with this case. That, I think, is the crux of it. She understood that it was wrong.
The prosecution is screwed here because she knew it was wrong. She knows it's wrong, but in the moment, she couldn't control herself.
That's the defense argument. By the way, this defense lawyer, he is doing an excellent job. He's doing an excellent job. So
his performance, his presence, his voice,
he's controlling the courtroom.
I'm so enamored with this guy. I hate to be a fanboy, but the South Boston accent, even with the way he says postpartum, I mean, and he's cozy and he's well presented. I have to say.
Can I jump in here for just a second on this with Big Red and you and this? I'm enamored. Like, I remember saying that to my first girlfriend in high school. I'm enamored with, because we're from there. I'm enamored with you. You are enamored.
Well, Harry's from Worcester, Mass, and and Steve Harding, our beloved Steve, was from Lynn, City of Sin. I mean, we got a lot of massholes working on this program, all over us. But Kevin Reddington, this guy, did I call him cozy? Did I call him cozy?
If we were to go back to the end of the clip, you said he's cozy. Dude, you know who's cozy? Allie's cozy. You and Allie are cozy together. Yeah, you and I are not cozy. And I've known you 35 years. We're not, dudes aren't cozy.
Big Red is cozy, and I got a big fat man crush on the guy. I'm gonna say it. I'm not running from it. God, I love it. This is one hell of an attorney. By the way, there's a little show I watch at night called Commonwealth Confidential on NBC 10, local show, but you can watch it on YouTube, and they do a nice little quick wrap up. It's Cliff Notes wrap up, but they did a little piece, a 3-minute piece. Their legal analyst went to visit Kevin Reddington before the trial began, went to his office. The man got famous for his big break, or what really he was known for was he represented Mo Vaughn, the legendary Boston Red Sox player, when he was being prosecuted for OUI or DUI. And Reddington was really funny. He's like, I was in a shit position. Let's be honest, because if I get Mo Vaughn off, it's like, of course he got off. No problem. He's Mo Vaughn. Of course he was what Boston jury is going to sentence Mo Vaughn? And then he's like, and if I don't, you screwed up Mo Vaughn. How could you lose Mo Vaughn, you idiot? He's got a great personality. Like I said, when they make the movie of this trial, I like Ed O'Neill from Modern Family in the role of Kevin Reddington. If you can top that, take a shot in the comment section. I welcome it. All right. The Clancy trial rolls on. We will have much more to say. Let's shift attention to Amy Griffin. Okay, guys, just a little Amy G update here. As you know, she is locked in 2 lawsuits. One, she's the plaintiff. The other, she's the defendant against a woman that was in the 8th grade class with her back in Amarillo, Texas. This woman says that Amy basically stole her story of childhood abuse by a teacher and made it her own for her book, The Tell, which was a bestseller in 2025. It came out. Oprah and Savannah and all the muckety mucks and big, people just promoted her story, but obviously problematic because this woman was interviewed by the New York Times. The New York Times found her and she said, this is very eerily familiar to what happened to me, and thus the problems began. So in California, you'll remember that Amy Griffin filed a anti-SLAPP trying to get Jane Doe's California case against her thrown out. It didn't work. That case is going forward in California. So now it's Jane Doe's turn because Amy is the plaintiff and suing her for defamation in a federal case in Nevada. So Jolie sorry, her name is Jane Doe and Jolene. It's now out. Even Jane Doe's lawyers are calling her Jolene as they respond to this Nevada case. So Jolene's lawyers filed a motion to strike Amy Griffin's defamation suit in Nevada. Amy is crying defamation of her claims, which were recovered under MDMA-assisted therapy, psychedelics. The reasons they're trying to get Amy's suit thrown out. First, Amy's a public figure who neither adequately pleads nor can prove that Jolene acted with malice. That is, with knowledge of false information or with reckless disregard for the truth. The complaint actually directs its malice narrative at the New York Times. Amy is obsessed with the New York Times and its reporter, Katie Rossman, ascribing to them preconceived conclusions, leading questions, shitty reporting, an investigative zeal on which Amy Griffin's theory depends. They also, they cite Katie Rossman's purported state of mind and so-called jealousy of Amy Griffin. Your lawsuit should be with the New York Times, right? Amy, you should be suing them, not this woman who has 8 people corroborating her story from that time or corroborating elements of it altogether. But second reason they want it out is the evidence that Amy Griffin signals that she will rely upon, the transcript of her conversation with a Sergeant Eatley of the Amarillo Police Department back in the day, and the transcript of her conversation with her ghostwriter, Sam Lansky, have already been found unauthenticated and excluded by the California judge, Judge Fruin, in that lawsuit. Yeah, I mean, Amy says, this is a declaration. This is evidence. You see, I told my story to a police sergeant. Okay, but all he did is listen and take notes. So he's not, that's not real corroboration. Third reason, Amy Griffin is an incompetent witness under Rule 602. Her recovered memories are the product of illegal psychedelic drugs, and she admits there is no independent corroborating evidence which establishes that any of the central rape scenes actually happened to her. And in the tell, Amy writes, I would never know for sure. I just have to live with the uncertainty. She constantly throughout the book doubts herself. She's like, how could this be true? There's no way. I can't even believe it. I'm never going to know. There is no smoking gun. These are all things that she writes in the book. So she's kind of saying, I don't have any corroboration. I've only recovered this from a psychedelic session. And by contrast, Jane Doe or Jolene has submitted multiple declarations corroborating the core aspects of her account, that she is the basis for the character Claudia in the book, and that the central assault scenes, which is one at the middle school dance and another in a middle school bathroom, happened to her. Also, like I said, 7 or 8 declarations have been filed, which include details like the borrowed floral dress for that 8th grade dance, the assault at the dance, Jane Doe, Jolie, her disheveled return when a teacher pulls her away. There are those who saw the disheveled return, especially the boy that took her to the dance. The return of the stained dress in a bag, corroborated. The later violent bathroom assault and Jane Doe's foster care background, written about in the book Proposal, about when describing the character Claudia, all in there. The fourth reason they want Amy Griffin's federal lawsuit against Jolene thrown out is that Amy misstates the New York Times article. She ignores her own writing in the tell and relies on statements protected by the litigation privilege to manufacture the lawsuit. Jolene's statements constitute protected speech on a public issue and were made in furtherance of the New York Times just news gathering and interviewing for their publication. In other words, she didn't just come out with these. She was answering questions from an interviewer in the New York Times. Fifth reason and final. The lawsuit is procedurally improper. Amy Griffin's defamation claim is a compulsory counterclaim that belongs, if anywhere, in the pending California action. There's no reason, they're saying, to have its own trial. All the details, all the elements are already in the California case. My take on this, like I said, Amy should be suing the New York Times. But she's not. Why? Why aren't you suing the New York Times? That's defamation. I mean, I'm not saying it's defamation, but you got a better shot at defamation there. Remember, Justin Baldoni filed a defamation suit against the New York Times. Ultimately, it was thrown out, but he filed one for the writers' collusion, they claim, with Blake Lively's team. So, anyway, for these main reasons and the reasons set forth below, the court should grant this motion in full and award attorney's fees to Jane Doe. You decide. I think it's a pretty good motion. I think it has a real good chance of going through. Mary Trotman, where are you, girl? Mary says, Billy, your show with last night was hands down phenomenal. Geez, Mary, thank you for that. I really like Matt Murphy. He's going to be back. He's promised to come back as a guest, and anything in the true crime space, which there's like this Lindsay Clancy trial, we'll have him back. Also want our girl Melanie Little on at the end of the week to kind of wrap up the week for us. She's so good at that. Okay, let's turn to politics as entertainment, all right? The Circus, it was a great series on HBO. And it just shows you how nuts our politics are and the characters in our politics. Right now, we got nuts on the left and we got nuts on the right. The Bushman is right here in the middle, looking at all the crazies in both directions. I have a bipartisan take on our politics. Let's start with, here's a show, Palestinian Sympathizers Got Talent. Mullapalooza here. The talented Mr. Mamdani and Abdul's clues. This is crazy. Abdul El Sayed. Let's begin with him. He's the...
Wag my tail when it comes, I wanna well. Thanks, mailbox. We just got a letter. We just got a letter. We just got a letter. I wonder who it's from. Oh, it looks like my ballot. Brought to me by my Secretary of State.
Take it down.
And with it, I can participate in democracy. The first day that I can turn this in is June 25th, but it has to be postmarked by July.
Get him off. Oh my God. Why are you courting the 6-year-old vote? Why would you do Blue's Clues? Why are you showing people how to register? Are there plans to register kids now, not just dead people? What is happening? Boy, now here's the other part. I mean, this guy's got stones, and I bet you Mom Donnie's jealous. Mom Donnie's like, no. I'm the Muslim American guy with an enormous amount of talent. I'm the guy with all the charisma. What are you doing? You need to be boring, like Rashid Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. You leave Mr. Charisma and personality to me. All right, the talented Mr. Mamdani. Here we go. You've seen the rapping video? Get a load of this. I mean, this is
in Kampala. But we also do, our showkees. We do our, we also do, our showkees. We do our showkees in Kampala. We also do, our showkees. We do our showkees in Kampala.
Take it down. Something's wrong with it. He does this whole thing. Okay. I think I don't know it's Swahili. I think it might be Swahili. He's rapping in, but the dude, he's a chameleon. I mean, he's a man of many colors. And don't think that's not attractive to a lot of people. How about this? He's got this new initiative in New York where he's setting aside Broadway tickets for high school students. And part of his announcement on social media, where he reigns supreme, is in Mandarin. The guy speaks Chinese. I mean, check this out.
名词是 Mirzora 我不知道中文，可是我想试一下。纽约市政府将免费送出2000多张百老汇演出门票。
Okay, compare that to Donald Trump, who goes, I like China. We make deal. We make deal. The Chinese, they love me. They see me coming and they say, he make deal. This guy speaks Mandarin. That is another weapon in his tackle box. He's lethal. And I'll tell you what, you take the El Sayed Blues Clues thing and you take Mamdani rapping and speaking Mandarin and you put them together, and what's the reaction? What does it do to people? Is it working? I'll tell you what, in my opinion, it deepens the feeling that you had already. Whatever feeling you had about these two guys before, you now feel that much stronger, pro and con. But, you know, to be reminded, they're both unequivocally anti-Israel. They are unequivocally socialist, anti-police, anti-ICE, pro-punishment for any type of wealth building. And sadly, I will say this for the Democrats, if they can't fight it off and get back to the center, they're making Trump necessary and relevant. Trump is literally imploding, and embracing these guys makes Trump necessary again. By embracing them, you're building up him and whoever's going to try and carry on his act. Speaking of the king, the Don, nobody manhandles the media and distracts from legitimately crazy shit that he's doing, like DJT, masterclass in media manipulation. He's doing some stuff that, I mean, you can't even say you're shocked anymore, but embracing Kim Jong-un, canceling military exercises with South Korea because Kim Jong-un is my friend. Threats to Oman. We're going to blow the shit out of you. We're going to bomb you if you get in the way and try to negotiate with Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz. That's an ally of ours. We need them very badly. Don't threaten to bomb them, please. The sailors who've been at sea way too long on the USS Abraham Lincoln with insufficient food and just mental health purposes shouldn't be out there for over 9 months, which is what's happening. So all of that's happening now, and in order to negate every bit of it, forget all that he's doing, Trump has never been happier than when he has someone to fight. And a new, courageous, younger Democrat is now trying to fight Donald Trump on his turf. Hand-to-hand combat, insults. Don't play the insult game with Donald Trump. Gavin Newsom tried it, had a little bit of success, I think. Boom, got knocked off the map. Gavin's not even in the question. At a Sunday rally in Georgia, Senator Ossoff, John Ossoff, decided to take a shot. There's John. He said Trump is so great. He wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on their apparently defenseless flying palace gifted by the Emir of Qatar. And then he got pressed on it in an interview with Jen Psaki on MSNBC. He was asked why he specifically named Natalie, who's Natalie Harp, who is the executive assistant and special advisor or whatever to the president. She's 35 years old. Ossoff said, well, I'd heard this particular aide, Natalie, referred to as his security blanket. So he didn't use the word affair, but a bunch of Republicans came roaring out, and they were like, he is insinuating an affair between the president and this 35-year-old woman. Frankly, let's not say that Trump doesn't have the moral aptitude or immoral aptitude to do it. I think he's just 80 years old and too tired. But he would try. Come on. Don't act like, oh my, how that's beneath the president. Please don't do that. Robbie Starbuck accused John Ossoff directly of insinuating they're having an affair. He called it vile. Brandon Gill, who's a soundbite machine of a congressman, called it vile. White House spokesperson Davis Ingle, I've never heard of this guy, but he's apparently got some pep in his step. He called Ossoff a cringeworthy feminine theater kid cosplaying as Barack Obama. And of course, Trump calls him Pee Wee Herman and John Jackoff. I don't know if that's Trump. Someone else might in the administration, but John Jackoff and Pee Wee Herman, don't mess with these guys when it comes to the insult game. But who is Natalie Harp? It has been reported that Natalie Harp's closeness to the president ruffles feathers. It's a sore subject internally in the White House. Who is she? She's a former One America News presenter, which is like right of Attila the Hun. She became a Trump aide in 2024. She's been inseparable from the president since. She reportedly referred to President Trump as her guardian and protector in this life in devotional letters. The New York Times' Maggie Haberman wrote a piece on Natalie and that relationship. I'm sure she's very bright and an earnest young woman. On Aaron Burnett and CNN, her brother showed up, and clearly they're not tight. As he said, she's always wanted to be in the White House, and she's been infatuated with presidents, and that she wrote letters to George W. Bush, trying to do what she's doing here with Trump, and didn't work out. Of course, she was probably a kid at that point, but now she's living her dream, and she loves Trump, and you know Trump. Trump loves people that love Trump. And if you have an undying, fangirly, addictive praise of him, he's all about it. Okay. But there's no way there's an affair. There's no action there. You can't. Trump is too smart to know he's too old. He's too smart, too old. Okay? Final story. This one caught my attention this morning. In my news feed, up came 5 different stories that were suggested for me. Exhibit 11 put this up. It is the James Haven story that popped up on my, Harry, do you have the James
I'm working on that now. There was an issue with it uploading on my end. I've got it on my phone here for us to see.
No worries, Harry. You don't have to talk so long that you are delaying to get it up there. I'll put it up on here. Here it is on my screen. James Haven reveals how dad, John Voight, reacted to him coming out as gay. What do you think when you click on that? Of course, the headline is always there to draw you in. Do you think, oh shit, John Voight, conservative, Republican, Trump guy, did not react well? How did John Voight react when James Haven finally came out? I knew instantly. And I knew instantly it wasn't that. Because these stereotypes, this black and white prism we often see things through is just bullshit. Of course, John Voight supported his son. He's 87 years old and he's a hardcore right-winger and stuff, but he's a father and he loves his kid. And there's just no question. I knew exactly what I was going to read when I clicked on it. Did anyone else get caught thinking, oh no, let's just go with, the easy thought here? Absolutely not. It led to something really beautiful. James said he came out, that dad saw you know, that he had come out and they hadn't spoken in a while. You know, and that James looked at his phone and it was ringing over and over again. It was his dad trying to get through to him, and he was like, you know, I don't know. And he finally answers the phone call, and his dad said, "Hey, I saw what you announced, and I just want to say, wow, that's why you were so private for so many years, and I feel like I better understand now why, and I support you." And the whole thing, James was like, "Oh my God." Like, he didn't give his dad enough credit, and all of a sudden they had this amazing connection together, and James is looking forward to, you know, getting back to Los Angeles so he can go see his dad and reconnect. And maybe Angelina will do the same thing. I don't know, but it's a beautiful little story with an ending there. And I just knew that John Voight wasn't like, my gay kid, you know? James came out. John said, "I finally know who you are. Now I understand why you've been so private." James couldn't believe what he heard. And now they're going to build a relationship. Isn't that the way it's supposed to be? Very beautiful. All right. Lindsay Clancy trial is going on. More on that tomorrow. We'll keep our eyes and ears on everything. Stay with us on social media all the way through the weekend. If you haven't hit subscribe on Hot Mics with Billy Bush here on YouTube, please do. Have an unbelievable day. I'm going to play golf this afternoon with a couple of great friends. One of them is country music artist Drew Holcomb, and also great country writer. Saw him last night at the Greek Theater, and we're playing golf today. He's a scratch handicap and a hell of a guitarist and singer. That's what I'm doing.
You're also going to do updates on the Clancy case on Thursday and Friday, probably.
I'm probably going to put something up.
Yeah,
We'll put up short segments there, maybe like an 8 or 9 minute thing, as we stay abreast. Okay. Love you guys. Have a wonderful day. Ta-ta. We out.
Oh, God, it's me doing me, right?
Kind of sharp. That's insane. Belly bush. What a
Another compliment. There she is.